Welcome, everybody, to Postgame Takeaways with Inside ND Sports. I'm Tyler James. He's the one and only Eric Hansen, and we're here to share our postgame takeaways from Notre Dame's 52-3 win over Florida State. Eric, what was your biggest takeaway from Saturday's blowout in Notre Dame Stadium?
You know, for me, it was kind of the mentality of Marcus Freeman and the players afterwards that here they handed Florida State. It was tied for the worst loss in their history by margin. And they were like, okay, we need to get better. It wasn't like, well, we proved to the committee we deserve to be higher than 10th. I liked the fact that they're striving to get better and they were looking for ways to get better. And they still had fun. I mean, that was they took apart a really bad Florida State team and made them look worse than anybody else had this year. But again, I think what does this turn into? What does this become? I think was my biggest takeaway. And I thought, again, their mindset is really what's important as they finish out this month of November. How about you?
Yeah, my top takeaway was just that Notre Dame's pass rush keeps finding answers. Certainly, Florida State's lack of good pass protection and a downfield passing game played a role in that, but Notre Dame was able to get 8 sacks. That was without Howard Cross for most of the game. The 8 sacks is the most Notre Dame has had in a game since Virginia in 2019. Riley Mills has 3 sacks. Donovan Hinish has 2. Junior Tuihalamaka had 1. Jalen Sneed had 1. And then Bryce Young and Jaden Osbury combined for 1. So the fact that Notre Dame's defensive line and some of the linebackers as well keep coming up and stepping up and just getting after the quarterback, even though these aren't necessarily some of the guys you would expect to be recording sacks for Notre Dame at this point of the season. If we were to forecast this from the beginning of the year, but I'm just impressed that they're able to find these answers and really make life tough for the opposing quarterbacks.
You know, I kind of messed up my answer. I should have said, "Let me clear my throat," and then give them my answer. Go ahead. What's the next question you have for me?
Well, but my other one would I feel like anytime we do these post game.
I only get 2. Are we that tired? Go ahead.
my other takeaway was
you're still talking. Okay.
Whenever we get to do these post game takeaways, I feel like when the team is that bad, we have to highlight it. Like the stink on Florida State is real. Notre Dame certainly made the most of that. Like Notre Dame had the biggest halftime margin of the season over Florida State, even though the first half wasn't the best half for Notre Dame. And Notre Dame beat Florida State worse than anyone this season. So it's important.
Anyone in the history of the program. It was tied for the most lopsided loss in the history of the program. They've been playing football since 1902. They've been bumfuzzled never before like they've been bumfuzzled at Notre Dame Stadium.
Yeah, and so I think you have to give props to Notre Dame for not just taking care of business, but doing so in
historic
fashion. Yeah, historic fashion. So Florida State stinks, but Notre Dame is a lot better than Florida State as well.
Well, here's some of the things that I think people watching in the game, they get frustrated with Riley Leonard's passing, and he wasn't on top of his game from a completion percentage standpoint. And there were some drops too, but 14 of 27, not a great percentage. 215 yards, that's one of his better totals, and he gave way to Steve Angeli, and Steve added 37 more to that total. But he didn't have an interception. He didn't have a fumble. And he still, I don't think people appreciate the runner that he is. He had 11 carries for 70 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tyler, going into this game, he was number 1 among Power 4 quarterbacks in yards per carry and yards per game, and he was number 2 in rushing touchdowns behind only Jalen Milroe. And you look at how Alabama pounded Brian Kelly's team tonight. 109 yards passing was all they had. Jalen Milroe had 185 yards rushing and 4 rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, when people see everybody throwing the ball all over the yard, I do think Notre Dame has to get better at that, but I don't think they have to be this machine, this passing machine to get to the playoff and to win a playoff game. I do think they need to get better in the passing game. What say you?
Yeah, I do think Notre Dame needs to get better. Riley Leonard was not sharp tonight, but I also think he needs to get better from his receivers. There were a couple drops, and there are even some contested catches. It's like those are opportunities where Notre Dame needs to have good enough players to make plays on the ball there. I thought he also had some really nice throws. I thought the touchdown pass to Mitchell Evans was really nice. He did some good things today. So I mean, you talk about his completions percentage. Yeah, I think there was at least 2 blatant drops, 2 balls batted at the line of scrimmage. That was interesting. I don't know that we've seen a lot of that this season, so I don't know if Florida State caught on to something there, or that was just so happened to work out that way. But certainly the passing game needs to improve. And I think we're seeing signs of it. I think we're seeing like Mitchell Evans look more like himself. Jaden Greathouse tonight looked more like the Jaden Greathouse we expected to see this season. Jordan Faison had some flashes tonight again. And it was kind of a quiet night for Bo Collins, who has been sort of the go-to guy for the season. So I think that there are signs that this can continue, but it wasn't necessarily the best performance for this passing game either.
Yeah, Jeremiah Love didn't really get loose tonight. Jadarian Price did.
Yep.
They used a lot of Aeneas Williams. What did you think about them using him so much in some high leverage situations tonight? You like that?
Yeah, I mean, there haven't been a lot of times where Aeneas Williams has been on the field. I'm like, and when he's involved, and it's like, oh, that wasn't impressive. Like he seems to always, like it seems like it doesn't even matter the situation. It's like, okay, there's another Aeneas Williams 6-yard gain. Like it could be it could be any sort of situation, and they managed to get some chunk yardage with him. He seems to be a well-rounded guy. So yeah, I think I don't mind seeing him out there. I do want to see Jeremiah Love in some situations like third downs that hasn't always happened. Love did have one of the drops tonight, but wasn't his night. But yeah, Notre Dame has enough talent in that backfield that even if Jeremiah Love isn't doing some of the things we expect from him, that you can get a big touchdown run from Jadarian Price. You can get some important yards from Aeneas Williams. So, and then obviously the threat of Riley Leonard to run is continue to be a strength. And like you hit on earlier, I think that's like, I feel like too often fans say we're not going to be able to do this against the good teams. And I just don't necessarily like to a certain extent. Yes. Like Riley Leonard's not going to run for 100 yards against good teams, but he's hard to tackle. Like, I don't care. Like, and it's good defenses have trouble tackling him. And that matters. Now, obviously, I think it's important for him to keep himself healthy. Like he took a shot on the sideline, I thought, where he could have just easily slid and was an unnecessary one. And I think that's important for him to maybe try to take care of himself while still remaining aggressive. But that is a part of Notre Dame's offense, and doesn't even have to be the design stuff. Sometimes Riley just pulls it down and runs after not finding something open in the passing game, and that can be just as effective in catching the defense by surprise.
Mitch Jeter got back on the field for the first time in several weeks. Missed one field goal, made the other, made all the extra points. Did not kick off. They left Eric Goins to do that. So I would think that that's a good sign that he's kicking again, because they're going to need his range when they play Army and USC, is my sense. And maybe even Virginia. Virginia had a surprise. They beat a top 25 Pittsburgh team on the road, I believe, tonight.
Yeah, that is correct. The Jeter, it was nice to see him stay in the game after he missed the first kick. Looked sort of awkward, and I was worried that he maybe re-injured himself. But he remained in the game. Although at one point Notre Dame did run Zach Yoakum out there for what was going to be a long field goal attempt, and then Florida State decided to take a timeout, and Notre Dame's like, you know what, let's put the offense back out there.
That was the weirdest thing, and I forgot to ask about it, although I had other things to ask about in the post game. But
so yeah, Mike Norvell definitely got out coached at the end of the first half, and to Notre Dame's benefit, and but yeah, Jeter finishing the game was important. Beyond just starting the game, because the last time he started a game, he didn't finish it. And I do think he is going to be better at field goals in the long run than Zach Yoakum has been.
Let me ask you this, because this is one thing that I think bothers some people when they're watching games, and it I don't want to say it concerns me, but it puzzles me a little bit. And that's how Notre Dame coughs up higher rushing totals to teams that are really bad at running the ball. Florida State was second to last, and they ended up only averaging 2.8 yards per carry, but a lot of that was because of the 8 sacks. They were getting little, 6 yards here, 7 yards here. And you would have thought, but Al Golden likes to play with 7 in the box a lot. He wants to protect the passing game more. And do you feel like that's a sound philosophy? I mean, Florida State had 88 yards passing, 38-yard completion percentage. Did I say 38 yard? 38% completion percentage. And so, I mean, they're probably going to be the number one team when the stats come out in the morning or in 5 minutes of being the number one pass efficiency defense. But do you like that approach? I guess I have confidence in him that he can toggle to a more run defensive team if he wants to, because he did it against Navy. But what's your thought on that? Because it does look at times like teams move down the field pretty easy, especially on their first drives.
Yeah. And going back to write my story afterward, especially since I was focusing on the defense, my memory of the game was like Florida State had more offensive success in the first half than just that first drive, but they really didn't. They were punting every time after that, and so yeah, I the first drive thing is strange. Like I don't know what I don't know what it means most. Like, is it that Notre Dame is relying on Al Golden to sort of make the adjustments once they know what the opposing team is going to do to them?
It sounded like Jordan Clark said that, didn't he? In one of his quotes, it sounded like he said, they were throwing some stuff we weren't handling well, but Al Golden fixed it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, and so like, but so then like, so it makes me wonder, like, so like, is Al Golden really the biggest reason for the success? Does Notre Dame not have the talent to figure things out against teams without Al Golden having the answers for them? Like that's sort of just head scratching to me, that especially on first drives, that this seems to be a continuing pattern. The running game stuff, I think that's something they work to find answers for, but I also think part of the philosophy is like, hey, we don't think that teams are going to be able to consistently do this, or will be patient enough to consistently do that. Now, obviously, Army will in a couple of weeks, but I don't think a lot of offenses in this day and age are going to keep trying to run the ball and be able to have success doing that. And I think sometimes that plays into Notre Dame's hand, where they're like, okay, we'll let you get maybe a little bit of confidence in doing that, but we're going to end up shutting it down eventually. So I don't really know what to think of that. The first drive is like, they're just going to do whatever they want. What offense is this for Florida State's running? Like, they're not supposed to be able to have this kind of success, but they sure did. But then it was basically gone after that.
So, big picture, do you feel like Notre Dame did enough in beating Florida State, the most by the most points in the history of the program to stay ahead of Alabama and Ole Miss and maybe be ahead of Georgia and or Miami when the next rankings come out. Now I had to do my AP rankings, so
I think Notre Dame has a good case against Miami, given the similar opponents. Like that's the one thing that the SEC teams are hard because those schedules are going to be so respected.
And they keep beating each other. There's like this circle, and that was hurting my head when I'm like, whoa, but Tennessee beat these guys, but Alabama beat these guys, but Georgia beat these guys.
So, yeah, I mean, my guess would be there's probably going to be an SEC team that does jump Notre Dame.
With 2 losses.
Yes, with 2 losses.
Okay.
But maybe not. I don't know. And maybe that won't happen until maybe later in the season if those teams can put more on their resume to hop over Notre Dame. But Notre Dame did all it could today. Like it's to no fault of Notre Dame of what the pollsters do, in my opinion, or the College Football Playoff Committee. So Notre Dame just has to keep going out and winning games, and the fact that Virginia won at Pitt, like that's another good thing for Notre Dame. Like Virginia has proved to be a competent team at times. It hasn't been good for Virginia or necessarily reached expectations at times. And they were struggling there for a bit this year, but we'll see if Notre Dame can handle that challenge like it's handled many of the challenges it's faced in the last 2 months here and continue its winning ways.
Okay.
All right, Eric, anything else we want to hit before we get out of here?
Just that I'm going to try to learn who DJ Cool is.
Yeah, I think you need to do like a 5-minute report on DJ Cool on Football Never Sleeps on Monday. That should be part of your homework.
That sounds like a made up name.
It's cool with a K too.
Yeah. Of course it is.
All right, Eric. Well, I'll see if I can get some fireworks for us for Football Never Sleeps on Monday to match the atmosphere at Notre Dame Stadium. I thought it was a good atmosphere. What did you think of Notre Dame Stadium tonight?
I thought it picked up. I thought, again, here we start with the, talking between the series and, hey, here's what's going on in the English department. It's like, come on now. But then it picked up. It picked up momentum, the play on the field, the crowd, and they started getting better with what they were doing with the music and so forth. And I think that helped. And by the end, it was a really good atmosphere. If I were a recruit, I would have said this was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. Like there are those lulls in the game, usually between the parts of the game that sort of make it feel like, is this a big time college football game I'm at, or what am I at an infomercial?
I do think they need to rethink the whole. Let's have somebody jabber between each series, because you have to quiet down to listen to that or ignore it. And I think it sparks a golf clap. And I think John Bon Jovi got people going a little bit. That was
Micah Shrewsbury did.
Micah Shrewsbury did. So put Micah, if you're going to have Micah do this stuff between the series, I'd be voting for that.
Micah will probably agree to it anytime he's got a 5-star recruit on campus like he did this weekend. So he's happy to be in the spotlight when they were hosting Nate Ament, one of the top 5 prospects in the entire 2025 class. So we'll see if the basketball program can pull off an upset in the long run there. But it wasn't an upset in Notre Dame Stadium on Saturday night. The favorites won in dominant fashion, and Notre Dame will continue its quest for the college football playoff next week with its final regular season home game against Virginia. That is it from LaPorte and South Bend. Please hit the subscribe button and give us a like before you close out the video if you haven't done so already. Make sure that you subscribe to us on InsideNDSports.com as well. You can take advantage of a 30-day free trial using promo code NDYT. We want to hear your biggest takeaways from Saturday as well, so let us know in the comments. And we will see you Monday night for Football Never Sleeps.